So, we are back with another review, this time with New Who, and it's not a bad episode for a change.
Which
The
is quite
randomizer's
nice.
been nice.
Yeah, which is, well needed, I think, after
Yes.
our last review, new series anyway, because we watched Kill the Moon, and we hated that. We watched Delta and the Bannermen, which is objectively bad, but we had so
Yeah.
much fun with it.
That was so good.
And now we're here with The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon, written by Stephen Moffat, directed by Toby Haynes, broadcast between 23rd and 30th of April 2011. My God, does that make me feel old?
I do think I'm not even going to give you the ammo. Not after last video.
Got a bit of chip in right there.
Yeah.
We still haven't sorted out the space yet, but just keep bearing with us. We'll figure it out, eventually.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say something. That's why.
And so did I, and then I thought it was as well. And then just my brain went like, no.
Well, there we are then.
Probably for the best.
So yeah, the opening two-parter of Series 6, a very divisive series, I think people would say. Not something that I often rate that highly, but it does have some quality individual episodes in.
Yeah, I mean, there is a couple of really good episodes, but there's not a lot else in here that I'd rush to rewatch.
No, it's really only The Doctor's Wife, The Girl Who Waited, and God Complex as the three that I sort of pick out the most from this series.
Yeah, I mean, I do.
Goes to War is good, but I don't often pick that out on its own.
I mean, if I'm gonna do that, I kind of need to watch. It kind of ties into the Rebel Flesh and stuff, and I don't really have time for that two-parter. But I love A Good Man Goes to War. It's just a shame that it comes off the back of that and is tied into that. It's why it just brings it down slightly.
Yeah, but it's very interesting to start the series with a two-parter though. First time Modern Who's done that. So how do you think that works compared to just your average one single episode?
It was a nice change of pace, to be honest, because you normally have, I mean, you've got established companions, you've got an established Doctor. You don't really want to do just a throw-in episode, because all the new series came out with a new companion, so you had to have something to establish them. You don't want to do that over a two-parter. You want to do that quickly in one episode that's fun, not plot-heavy, and just something that's enjoyable, like Partners in Crime is a great way of re-establishing Donna.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant episode. Same with Smith and Jones. I really enjoyed that. But for a two-parter, it's something you can only really do with established characters.
Yeah, and that's the other thing with it sets itself as well that you just touched on, is the fact that this is the first time that we've had the same TARDIS team carry over between seasons. I mean, usually sort of like, you've had Rose stay over or David Tennant, but this is the first time that everyone has carried over. So there's not really that need to, like you said, establish people, like reintroduce them, sure, but I think it helps to have a story like this because the actors, especially like the core four, are very well established by this point. I mean, you could tell everyone feels very comfortable in what they're doing now. I don't think Rory gets as much to do in this, but even he's a lot more comfortable, and you can tell that, Rory's matured quite a lot because he's had the whole thing with the 2,000 years stuff, which is touched on briefly.
And spoilers, he doesn't die in this one.
No, but someone does die.
Yes.
Matt Smith is on fire throughout the whole of this two-parter and doesn't stop. I love that when we first introduced the Doctor, obviously it's that older version, and he does. There's just subtleties in his performance that makes that Doctor feel older than the one we have for the rest of the episode. Because even though it's only 200 years, there's just that he's a bit more world-weary, a bit more. I don't think he's as hyperactive.
No, he's a bit more mature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a lot calmer. And I think that really works, and it shows how good Matt Smith is in the role, because for him to just be able to do tiny subtle things like that, and to make these two characters feel, or the two versions of the Doctor feel very different.
Yeah.
What did you think about the whole thing about the Doctor dying, though?
I'll get my note up and I'll put, because I weren't, while the Doctor's not going to die, right? So I believe in my note I put, Doctor dies, but he doesn't, so big boo to that storyline.
Yeah, because that's the difficulty with reviewing these two, I think, is because it sets up so much of what's to come over the rest of the season, is that to look at these in isolation, they're pretty good. When you think of Series 6 as a whole and what follows and how it delivers on the stuff that this sets up, it doesn't quite work, because obviously that that the Doctor isn't dead. We know that the whole thing is about, well, we obviously know the Doctor's not dead, but how is he going to get out of it? How is that? Who is that on the beach? Is it a clone? Is it a robot? Blah, blah, blah. But like to me, it just feels like that doesn't really work because all right, it's how does he get out of it? But it was obviously always going to be something. Like it always feels a bit lazy when you think about it's just it's a robot.
Yeah,
Like-
the Tesselector being a doctor in a doctor suit.
Yeah,
It was it felt a bit cheap when you saw the Tesselector come in and let's kill Hitler. I think you kind of got an inkling. Okay, it can change shape, so that's gonna be how the Doctor's got out of it. But by then, you can't really be forgiven. You can be forgiven for forgetting that the Doctor is supposed to die in Utah because so much has gone on, and it's just a load of just individual standalone episodes. Some which are incredible, like the God Complex, and others less so, like Curse of the Black Spot.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's just very difficult to look at this because I'm looking at that knowing full well what it is. And if I take myself back to when this was first on, I did think, oh, okay, how is this going to work then? Because obviously we know they're not just going to kill the Doctor off and, end Doctor Who this year because it would be completely stupid. But even at 11, I was like, is it going to be a robot or something or a clone, or is that too obvious? Or is that too, or is that what they're trying to get us to think and try and make us think outside the box a little bit? Stuff like that is great, but I just don't know if it pays off because it's so obvious that the Doctor isn't dead.
Yeah,
If that had been like Amy, for example, and a past version of Amy comes back, you could almost buy it in a way. You think, well, how are they going to get out of that sort of thing? Is this going to stick? Is what's behind this? And then when you go into the whole motivations of the Silence and the Kavarian chapter and everything, that takes another 2 years to fully pay off anyway. It's just such a needlessly complicated plan of right. So we're going to kidnap this child. We're going to raise her to be a psychopath. And then we're going to stick her in an astronaut costume, put her under a lake. But before she goes under the lake, she regenerates and becomes best friends with the mother, who is also travelling with the Doctor of the man that they're trying to kill. So we need to get hold of her again in the future, after all of her programming has gone, to then force her to be in the suit, to kill the Doctor anyway. It's just so... It's so stupid.
yes,
It's all over the place. But that's Series 6. That's not this. So you get the reveal. Then the Doctor, after they burn the body and everything, a past Doctor pops out of the that old American diner that was in Cardiff Bay. And we get another bloody slap. Another River slapping the Doctor moment.
Yes.
Which I'm not going to go into because I'm sick of repeating myself, to be honest.
yeah. I mean, there's never an excuse for it, but you can sort of see why she did it, but it's still not an excuse.
Oh, I get why she's angry and whatever, and I get why she's hurt, but it's just not good to put that on telly like that because it normalises that kind of behaviour. Like, if this was the 13th Doctor, you'd never have Graham do that, would you?
No.
But after that then, we're back in the TARDIS, and
Yes.
I really love that sort of darker streak of the 11th Doctor that Matt Smith can do so well, and just like that. Because when he realises that they're all hiding something from him and that they all know something but they can't tell him, he's sort of sat in that chair and he's got that dark streak to him of like, don't play games with me and everything. You very much, although he's got that sort of buffoon sort of like outer, but it's just a mask for what's underneath. And I really love that, and I think Matt Smith does that very, very well.
He's one of the best Doctors. I mean, Tennant was really good at
Tennant's
doing
another
that.
example of doing it well.
And I think Matt Smith being able to do it so well actually helped, like, his Doctor come along, because he's completely different yet not so different from Tennant. And it was a good touch, really good choice.
Yeah, so we travel to America in the Oval Office, and I love that the whole jokes in the, because like this story does have a tendency to go a bit dark and a bit horror, especially in the second half.
Yeah.
So to have this really bit of laugh out loud fun where he's putting the TARDIS on invisible and the bright lights come on, and when he's in the Oval Office and the TARDIS is invisible and he's sort of like making his notes and they all look up at him and he's like, no, carry on. And then walks straight into the TARDIS and is screaming at River over the Scouner and everything. That's really funny. And it really does work.
And it's just like, oh, you're not gonna. I've just come in here. I've parked my blue rug, my blue box on your rug. You're not gonna shoot me. And then River bursts out. They're Americans.
Yeah, I do love that, the sort of taking the mick, because that's very much what the British are quite good at that when it comes to mocking America. The code names the Doctor gives the three of them as well, the Legs and Nose and Mrs. Robbins. Like, that's all very funny, and I think that this is one of those rare moments where I don't find the Doctor and River really sort of smug and twee, because I've always said that they're out of the Doctor companion romances, I'm not a fan of them, but this is for me the better one because
Yeah.
it's more of a sporadic thing and it's more of a timeless thing to it. But I think River Song almost gets a bit sort of self-parodied by the end, and it's all, you know, it's innuendo after innuendo, and it's all, oh, I'm gonna slap you, you silly husband, ha 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 ha. Whereas in here, it's still quite fun, and it's still
Yeah,
quite a fresh
it's-
dynamic.
Yeah, it's still very fresh. I mean, you get the odd innuendo coming through, but that's not insufferable at the moment.
Not really. I think there's a couple. I think the only one that I think really sort of makes me go, really, was the one where she's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'm quite the screamer,"
Yeah, I was
and
going
it's
to
like,
say it was definitely. I
Come
knew you were
on.
going to say that one.
yeah, that's a bit too
It's like,
on the nose.
it's a kids show, like. Well, it's not, but yeah, kids are watching this.
But yeah, I mean, they're not gonna. They never, you know, they're not gonna pick up on that. I just think that for me,
I don't
watching
know.
that,
Imagine being a kid and you sat there watching Doctor Who with your kid, and the kid goes, "Mummy, what's a screamer?" Like,
Let us know in the comments how that conversation went. If any of you had that.
yes, please.
Yeah, and the silence. We ironically forgot to mention the silence so far.
Yes, I think they are. So this is obviously their introduction to the series, and it's a very strong introduction. They've been done so well. They're bloody terrifying.
And that design is
That
just
design's incredible.
phenomenal.
But skipping ahead to as the series goes on and stuff, they kind of go the way of the Weeping Angels.
Yeah, I just think they're more sort of like, hey, we need a monster. There we go, because they don't show up that often after this. Only really this in Time of the Doctor, and I think because of how this story ends, you can't bring them back more
No,
without going into the past a bit. But I think that maybe they should have been, because it just grounds them a bit more, and establishes them well. Because, like you said, the design is striking. The idea of like an alien that is so scary and everything, but it also, you can't remember it whenever you've seen it. It all plays on the whole corner of your eye thing, which Moffat does a fair bit. Really works. I just don't think that they had enough in terms of ground, because yeah, you got this in the finale and everything, but it's just not enough to really establish that threat. And it's not like you can go back and do a sequel because they all get killed at the end of it. Spoiler alert, and they all get killed. Or
Yeah.
at least we're all programmed to kill them and stuff. And you know, I do like the idea of someone. I think it was, I saw someone on Twitter that there's a theory that, like, you know, every time that you know fall over your own feet and everything, it's actually falling over the corpse of a murdered silent. So that's a fun one.
well, that's me not sleeping tonight.
You're welcome. Rory is great in this, not given
Yes.
too much.
No, but then he does really well with what he is given.
I think Arthur Darville's such a good actor, and he's so good in the part of Rory because he feels one of the most realistic companions. Like when he's asking, you know, oh, do you mind going down the river? He's like, yeah, a little bit actually. I'd rather not. It's you know, you don't often get that with
It's
companions.
that bit more grounding, relatable to the rest of the
Yeah.
audience.
He's a bit trepidatious because a lot of the time, especially with new series, there's a sort of thing to go, look at this quirky female character, she's throwing herself at everything, and then you know, Rory's very much like, no, this is completely stupid, why on earth would we be doing this? And it's like, yeah, you would get people like that from time to time, not all the time, sure, because they wouldn't be in the TARDIS, but certain things are going to be like, no, not for me, to be honest. But he still does it anyway, and I like that he gets to have a bit of a dialogue with River when they're down in the tunnels.
Oh, I really love that.
That's a great little
That's a
scene,
great scene.
with the two of them, because
You get that. You get Rory realizing that. So River's going on about how the Doctor, when she first met him and didn't know who he was, sorry, wibbly timey wimey stuff. He knew everything about her, and it's like he just drops out the sky, knows everything about me. What do you think that does to a woman? And Rory's there like, I know. And it's obvious like he's there like,
yeah.
it's still that whole playing on the, is there something in between Amy and the Doctor?
That should have been, you know, shot and chucked in the bin from the Vampires of Venice, to be honest.
Yes.
That should have been like, for the first couple of episodes, you can kind of see, you know, it's a bit of a way of teasing the casual audiences and getting them hooked on the, you know, the more human aspect of the show. But from the moment Rory starts travelling in the TARDIS and everything, that should have been cut there. Because it's even the night she gets married, she's, you know, flirting with the Doctor in front of Rory, and it's like, just stop it. And in this, there shouldn't be a need for Rory and Amy to have been married now for, what is it, I think a couple of years or so, or whatever it is, and
Still have
that feeling in his head, because it's not a nice feeling, especially when Rory hasn't done anything either.
Yeah.
Like, you get, you know, it's sort of going on, look, this is quite an insecure, but it's not without reason, because
Yeah,
of
it
what
is.
Amy's doing.
There is perfect reason for his insecurity on this one. But you also get that lovely bit of dialogue from River as well, saying it's a worse day waiting for her, worse than her death and the Doctor's death. It's a day that she meets the Doctor again, and he has no idea who she is, which of course we already know about because Silence in the Library,
Yeah.
and the Forest of the Dead, and as she said in this, it would kill her.
Which it does.
Yeah.
But you know, I really like that scene because I think it's important as well to give River and Rory a bit of a relationship because of obviously the reveal that Rory is her father, and by that point she's already quite close with Amy. We haven't had that with Rory yet, so I quite like that. That was good. But yeah, I even put in here about my notes about like this love triangle nonsense is a load of silly shenanigans, and I just it's not a soap opera. That kind of thing I get for a couple of episodes to hook people in and stuff. But by this point, I don't like it when they did it with Tortured with Reese and Gwen and Owen. And I just think that, especially here, and especially this far into their relationship, and especially after all the travelling that, all right, he did briefly die and then come back and whatever, and you know what I mean? He's been around the TARDIS long enough now, and she's seen
waited
how much
2,000 years for her.
Yeah, and I know that obviously all of this whole like, oh, you said you dropped out of the sky and everything later on is all a load of rubbish and everything, and I can see that on the insecurity side of Rory, and I suppose it's quite a good way to finally get a bit of closure on that and go, no, it's always been about you. Let's call that a day. But it just should have happened a lot earlier. Canton, we haven't talked about Canton yet.
No, I really like the character. To be honest, he's good fun.
Yeah, I don't know why he's never come back after these 2 episodes. To be honest,
No,
it feels such a setup.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get to see a bit more of him throughout the series.
Very much should have at least been in Good Man Goes to War and Wedding of River Song at the very least.
Yeah,
100%.
No, he's great. He fits in really well with everyone. You get that brilliant moment where he just jumps in the TARDIS for the first time.
It's a very natural reaction to the whole thing.
Yeah, and then he comes out, sees all this alien equipment in Florida, and he seems to have come round a bit and is back on Earth, and he's just like, yeah, nice wheels. What the hell's going on here? And it's just...
Mark Sheppard is a great actor, to be fair, and he's done a lot of sci-fi shows. I mean, he had quite an important role in Battlestar Galactica with one of the worst Irish accents you've ever heard, but still a very good performance regardless, which is incredible, really. He's great in Firefly. He's great in Supernatural. He's a very good actor, and I think that bringing Canton back a couple of times, not all the time, but he could have been sort of like the 11th Doctor's Captain Jack in a way.
Yeah.
Have him pop back, or if they need a bit of a hand, go pick him up from somewhere. And I love the bit at the end where they're talking about like, oh, you want to get married? Why is that a crime? Not realising that he's gay. Yes. Until he gets that scene at the end with Nixon, which hasn't aged particularly well, but it's a good bit of fun, I suppose, where, he's sort of like, oh, this person, is he black? Yes. Oh, no, you're supposed to want to marry, he's black. Yes, he is, and all that. And it's, Nixon's like, oh my God, and it's like...
maybe the moon's far enough.
Yeah. Nixon as well, with, the actor's name has gone out of my head again, is a good portrayal.
Yeah. The voice
very controversial character in sort of US history. Yeah. But this is very much near the start of his run, because I think, what was it, Nixon was sworn in 67, 68?
Yeah, so at the moment, obviously, he's doing the moon landing. He's dealing very poorly with Vietnam at the time.
Yeah. So you've got Watergate to come as well.
Yeah, it's about to go downhill. And you get that bit with the Doctor, and he's like, yeah, will I be remembered? And the Doctor's like, oh, no one's ever going to forget you.
But, he's great in this, as the early sort of president, and it's a great performance as well. The prosthetics don't look terrible. It could be quite easily done over the top in a way, but it's subtle enough just that it looks quite accurate, to be fair.
Yeah, the voice is quite good as well, I think.
And I do love the running joke in the second part as well, wherever they need sort of to like explain something that's a bit like, how the hell have you done it? And you just have him walking out to that fanfare of like, hello, it's me, I'm the president. Everyone's like, okay, but what's going on? He's like, hi, look, I'm the president, just do me a favour.
Just go with it, just let these guys go, they're fine,
And you can...
I'm the president, you've got to listen to me.
The second time it happens, he's just, he walks out that bit in Area 51 and is like, hi fellas, I'm the president. He's just getting more fed up of doing it. It really works. It really, really works because it's quite difficult to balance humour in a story like this where there's a lot of dark themes and a lot of horror aspects. To be able to do that and...
Are you okay?
Chair tried to kill me. But it's quite impressive that the story can manage to balance the humour because it could be quite easily go too far with it. And I think in some cases it does. I think River diving into the swimming pool is fun, but it's a bit cheesy.
Yeah.
But I think you could go very silly with the jokes, especially when you've got a lot of horror elements to balance. And it does both of them very well. But neither of them feel like they're overshadowing the other. Like it doesn't feel like, oh, this is really horrific and scary and bit too serious, because you've got the jokes like, you know, the Oval Office stuff and the stuff with Nixon to bring it up a bit, but not in the sense that they're sort of parodying Nixon and playing down the rather controversial decisions he made later on in his term as president. Which
That's definitely one way of putting it, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to put this lightly, in case you couldn't tell. Yeah, Nixon, not very good. Nixon bad.
Chibnall bad.
Chibnall bad. But yeah, the cliffhanger though to the first part.
Oh, yeah.
It's the weakest part of that first episode for me because it all goes so well and it just goes. That's where it goes too much into the over the top. Like Murray Gold's turned the speakers up to 11, and you know, in what is a great piece of music, it just so overpowers the slow mo dialogue, and it's like,
what are you doing?
No! It's like, no, that's just a bit silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. I don't rate the cliffhanger much. I think if that had been done just in real time, it wouldn't have been half as bad. It's just the slow-mo, and it's a very bizarre decision in a two-parter that's directed on the whole very well. It's just that decision was, I'm not really sure if that was a script or a director choice, but it doesn't work for me personally anyway.
No, it kind of... It sets up the rest of the second episode nicely. I will say that, but no, the slow-mo was a choice.
Yeah. That's what it is. It's just the slow-mo just doesn't work at all. The rest of it is fine. It's just that small part of it just really has such a big impact on, you know, the tension of those last couple of minutes. But onto the second part now, Day of the Moon. What do you think about the resolution to the cliffhanger in terms of the time jump and everything?
I enjoyed it. It kind of was a bit... At first, I was just like, what the hell's going on? Because you just see all the companions, you see Amy and Rory running around away from each other, getting hunted by Canton, and it's just like, hang on, you guys are friends, what you doing? And then bang. River doesn't get shot, she just jumps out of the 50th floor, because it's River and that's what she does. I don't think there's anything where she's been up high and she hasn't jumped except for Angels Take Manhattan. But that's only because she wasn't stood on the edge.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only thing. Like, I don't know what the hell it is with her and jumping off tall things. But then you get that bit in that prison that Canton's had built out of that, I forget what he called it.
Dwarf star alloy or something.
Yeah, dwarf star alloy.
Densest material in the universe or something.
Yeah, nothing gets through, basically. Except for the TARDIS, it's already there because invisible. And... he brings Amy and Rory in a body bag, and then you get that funny bit, and it's just like, oh, you should really put some air holes in here. You've not really had any complaints, to be honest.
Yeah, see, that's the stuff like that where I think Canton's very well written in the way that Mark Sheppard just delivers it in almost like a Paul Darrow-esque kind of way of just, you know, very flat, but not flat as in, you know, he's not thought about it. It's a choice, and he's got a very dry sense of humour, and that really works with his character.
Yeah.
So we get that, and then everyone's back together. Time jump, I think, really works because it makes the exposition a bit more natural. Because everyone's sort of checking with each other about what they've learned and stuff, rather than just going, so this is what we're dealing with, chaps. Remember, bloody doing this and all. It just,
it feels more organic.
Yeah, 100%, and it works. And then we get sort of the splitting off of everyone, and Amy and Canton go to investigate the orphanage where the little girl was picked up. And the horror aspects in that are really good.
Got all the writing on the walls.
Yeah, the poor man who works there, who's just gone insane from the constant memory wipes of the silence. He still thinks he's in, like, you know, the early to mid 60s, not realizing it's 1969 at the minute. And he's like, no, all the children must have written these after it's closed down 2 years ago.
Yeah,
because he's just gone, and that's horrific, but it works so well.
Yeah, and it's just obviously the abandoned rooms, and then the doors slamming with Amy in there. and all of a sudden she's got the writing on her because they start writing on themselves because silence and stuff.
Everyone was doing that when I was younger. See, when I
Yeah.
was about 11, we were all drawing things on our arms
Yeah.
to be like, "Oh, I've seen some silence." Oh.
Yeah, but then they've got these recorders now as well to just get information on everything, which I think were quite cool.
It was a cool idea. I don't understand how Amy's still got a hand though, because it says the doctor says like, "Oh, it fuses with the cartilage in your hand or something." So for the science to take that out of it, it must have like ripped half of the muscle out of her hand.
Unless it was Ganger Amy.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
But it is Ganger Amy.
It is,
and
but
that'd
we
be
don't
why.
know that. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
I suppose.
maybe, yeah. If you look further down, it's Ganger Amy, so it's that's probably the reason why.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I never thought of that.
Because I was thinking that's a bit gruesome for a Doctor Who show.
Yeah,
even
I remember
even
at the
by
time
Doctor
thinking,
Who standards.
like, I was like, oh my god, they must have like chopped Amy's hand off or something.
Yeah, and it's just like, where's the mess? So they were very good at cleaning up as well.
Yeah.
Very good cleaners of silence.
Now the hint with the picture of Amy and the baby, that was the bit where I basically worked out what was going on for the rest of the series. Yeah. And I did that when it was first on at age 11. So like all right, people call Series 6 complicated, which it is when you think of the motivations and stuff, but it's actually all there in episode 2.
Yeah, you get everything. It's Amy's kid. Spoiler.
It's obvious that like River's the one that kills the Doctor. We have all through Series 5, I'm in prison for killing the best man I ever knew. Right, so it was obviously River. And then we get the twist that this River is, this is child River here with a picture of Amy. So Amy's obviously her mum.
Yeah.
And that was a bit, all like that clicked into place. And I was like, oh no, I know what this is now. So I was quite proud of that, which at the time I was 11, I thought it was very clever. Now I realise that it's just sort of a bit
tacky.
Yeah. I think there should have been more subtle hints to not have Amy with the newborn baby like, look at my child.
Yeah, they could have avoided that a bit. But then she forgot about it after anyways.
Yeah, which is convenient.
Yeah, nice little plot device that. But no, you got all that. You got Canton in the office, and then the guy in the office takes a message from someone, and then he forgets who he's taking the message out of, and then Silence Man walks through the door.
Yeah.
And gets shot, and Canton's like, "Yeah, welcome to America." Like he's like, "Oh, you guys armed? Do you have weapons?" I was like, "We've ruled your world since fire and the wheel. We don't need weapons." And he just pulls out his gun, shoots it, and goes, "Yeah, welcome to America."
Yeah,
I love Canton. He's so good.
America's gun control stuff.
Gun culture.
Yeah,
I believe is the way of putting it.
Thank you for correcting me, sir.
Yeah. I just don't want to get shot.
I like the idea of the Silence having that post-hypnotic suggestion thing and being basically responsible for any sort of major development in human history because they need it for them rather than human race. And it makes it really builds the Silence up as this really like credible threat going, oh god, so everything that we've done, like, you know, advancement-wise, has basically not really been our own idea.
Yeah, it was a really, really cool idea.
Very, very clever. I really like that. And the fact that, you know, they put all the idea of space travel because they need spacesuits and stuff because they've been stuck on Earth for so long. That really, really works. And that's why I think that if we'd had a bit more with the Silence, maybe like some prequel stuff, would have just cemented them a bit more because you get them to build up as this big, giant threat, like, you know, one of the biggest that we've had so far, whatever, and they all get killed by, like, the broadcast of the Apollo 11 moon landing.
Yeah.
Which is a cool way to tie into it because, you know, like 500 million people watch that in total all across the world. That's a very cool way of doing stuff. But yeah, I don't know, I just feel like I wish I'd seen more of the Silence and it felt like that was more, it almost feels like a finale in a way because if the Silence had been built up a bit more and they'd be behind everything, that would have really worked as a finale to use that hypnotic suggestion against them, but it, you know, throw them off the planet. It's one of those weird stories that it works as a premiere and also a finale.
I think it would have worked.
More of the Silence.
I think it would have worked better as a finale if they'd dotted some Silence in the odd episode before.
Yeah.
Just so like you don't get any explanation as to what they are. Everything gets revealed to you at the end.
Yeah.
And it's just like
or
that little
like,
thing. It's just like, what the hell is this creature?
It could have been kept where it is now and even have through Series 5, you know, have an episode where they you know, they frighten you but they can't remember anything about it and it's like, well, that's weird. How did that... Boom, you get this and it wraps it. Well, that would have worked quite well. But yeah, are we going to talk about the breaking out scene? Because I didn't get on with that, to be fair. sonic screwdriver being a gun all of a sudden.
Yeah, this is
Despite the fact that River's doing fine on her own.
yeah.
Like, she doesn't need any help.
Is she a badass? Yeah. So they've got a standoff with the Silence after the doctors basically just said, "Look, surrender. It'll be easier for you, or you're gonna die." It's effectively what he did.
Yeah.
And then a bit of a skirmish breaks out. River's shooting everyone, which is fine, and the Doctor's just there waving a screwdriver around. River makes a comment like, "Oh, you build a cabinet at them." And he's, "Oh, that's really offensive." And then all of a sudden, you see some green light come out at the end of his screwdriver, and a big beam goes right into the heart of a Silence. And it's just like, right, so it's a weapon now as well.
Yeah, not really fan of that. I think this is really like this. The Matt Smith era is really where the Sonic starts to get overused. To be fair, with stuff like that,
It was a
but
cool design.
yeah, but I don't know. It just doesn't really work for me. And then everything sort of gets wrapped up quite nicely. There's the sort of the fallout of the stupid man and your stupid face and everything, and the recorder thing that Rory still got. Where Amy goes, "I'm gonna take that off you if you keep listening in." It's like, well, that's the only thing it does do. Or just just take it off him anyway, because it's a bit weird.
Yeah, imagine like you're just asleep and he's just there awake listening in another room, not doing anything. It's just like, imagine if you had like started sleep talking. He'd rinse
I
you for
imagine
that.
Amy and Rory probably share a bed.
Yeah, no, but like she might go to bed early one night. I don't know. People do things.
I mean, I said, okay, fair enough. But yeah, I'm glad that all gets wrapped up and it's, there's no more like, it's you, I don't fancy the Doctor. Like, it should have been done anyway, but thank God we've got rid of that now. And then there's a mystery of Amy's pregnancy, and, when that started happening, it's like, so it's obvious what's going on. But I do love the final scene, though, with the young astronaut girl in the suit, who's we now know as River, regenerating in the middle of New York, because that was a bit like, oh, so River can regenerate. That's quite cool.
Yeah, and it just makes you think though. It's like, okay, so she's putting herself into all that threat. You obviously don't see her get shot or anything.
Yeah.
So you don't think she's going to die anytime anyways. But it's not until Let's Kill Hitler that we realise that she used all her regeneration energy on saving the Doctor and that, didn't she?
Yeah, but at that point we didn't know that. But like here and now, I was like, oh, so River could regenerate at any point. Then really, she's basically. Does this mean that she's a Time Lord? And I was still quite convinced that. I mean, it still was like she's either a Time Lord or she's Amy and Rory's daughter. Turns out she's both. So I was right twice.
Oh, she's a child of the TARDIS.
Yeah, all right. You know what I mean?
She was conceived in the time vortex, and that exposure.
You know
to the
what
time
I mean?
Yes.
Let me have my two-pronged victory.
Yes.
But anyway,
I really enjoyed this two-parter. It's a lot more refreshing than Kill the Moon.
Yeah, I think on its own as a two-parter and as an opener to a series, it's great. I think in the context of what comes next, it doesn't quite work, and there's a lot of things that it sort of goes, well, this will be cool, and it doesn't really go anywhere. But that's not a fault of these two episodes in particular. It's just a fault of the whole series.
Yeah, it starts going to a point where it's doing too much for its own good.
Yeah.
I mean, you got that great mid-series finale with Good Man Goes to War.
Yeah.
Which ties up everything nicely, and then you get the second half of Series 6.
Yeah, because it's tied up in the wedding of River Song, which is just one of the most messy finales.
Yeah,
ever.
It's all over the place.
Some good bits in it, but
the stuff with Winston and the Doctor is great.
Well, yeah, I love the idea of that whole all the times happening at once, so everything's gone a bit doolally. But like the actual conclusion to stuff is just very silly.
Yeah, it was clear and obvious from Let's Kill Hitler.
Yeah.
How the Doctor was going to get out of it.
Yeah. But anyway, let us know what you think in the comments below.
Yes.
And we will see you for some Big Finish next week.
Yes. And please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, because we really do love it. We love the appreciation. And I'm really tired now.
I thought you'd forgotten something.
I have. But yeah, Big Finish next week. It's going to be great fun. I really love Big Finish.
Same.
It's your fault. It's an addiction.
I'm so glad I've converted someone else into being as much as a Big Finish addict as me.
Yes, we've both gone way beyond what we need to for the next videos.
Yeah, I need to sit down and make some notes over the next couple of days.
Yeah, I'm on. I've just finished Blood of the Daleks, and that's got nothing to do with anything that we're doing at the moment.
Yeah, well, we'll kind of come back to that.
But yeah.
You've been a silly boy there.
Oh, I've just been engrossed. There's a difference.
Well, yes, but you could have just... See you next week. Bye.
Bye.